Welcome back to part 2 of Aaron Nelms' debut story. My neighbours keep telling me I wasn't supposed to move here. If you missed the beginning, I've linked part 1 in the description so that you can catch up. I've actually already recorded part 3 of this story, and I've been in touch with Aaron, who is currently in the process of finishing up part 4. You can find a link to his Substack below so that you can follow his work. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but what do you think's going on? If you've got any theories of how this is going to go, let me know in the comments. I should have left when I had the chance. After I calmed down, I started doing some reading online, looking into small town behaviour and rural communities. A lot of what I found made sense. People in places like this are just protective of their own. They don't trust outsiders. The staring and the cold shoulders are just their way of sizing you up, and it takes time to be accepted. I was being paranoid. These are just strange rural folk, and I'm the outsider making them uncomfortable. The staring is weird, but it's not a crime. The festival is probably some boring town tradition, and they just don't want tourists gawking at it. I needed to focus on what mattered anyway. Money, a way out. Nearly a week had flown by already, and I was no closer to escaping this place. That's what I was thinking yesterday morning when Mrs. Dunsley knocked on my door. I'd seen her before. Older woman, maybe late 60s. Lives in the cute pale yellow house directly across the street. She'd never acknowledged me until then. Just watched me from her window sometimes when I came and went. But now she was standing on my porch with a paper plate of whoopie pies covered in plastic wrap.
I heard you were looking for work,
she said. Her voice was kind, grandmotherly.
I have a job if you're interested. Nothing fancy, but it pays well.
I should have been more suspicious. I should have asked how she knew I needed work. But I was so relieved to have someone finally treat me like a human being that I didn't even question it.
What kind of job?
I asked.
Cleaning out my basement. I'm getting too old to handle the stairs, and I need things hauled away. Trash to the landfill, donations to the church. Should take 2-3 days at most, and I can pay $300 in cash when you're finished.
$300? That would cover gas to get out of state and a cheap motel while I figured things out. It felt like a lifeline.
When would you like me to start? Today if you can, but there's no rush. You work at your own pace.
I started that afternoon. Her basement was exactly what you'd expect from someone who'd lived in the same house for decades. Boxes stacked to the ceiling, old furniture covered in sheets. The smell of mildew and dust so thick it caught in my throat. She told me anything by the stairs was trash. Everything else needed to be stored into a keep, a donate, or a toss pile. I worked through the afternoon, loading garbage bags and boxes into my truck. I made 2 big runs to the landfill. The whole time I kept thinking about that $300, about leaving, about never seeing this town again. It was on my 3rd trip down to the basement that I found them. The newspapers. They were in a cardboard box mixed with old kitchen stuff and photo albums. Copies of the Bagnall Daily News going back decades. I almost threw the whole box out, but something made me stop. The dates. They were all from late December. Different years, but always the same week. December 1984. Front page story about a man from Portland who'd gone missing near Stagwell. Last seen renting a cabin outside town for the holidays. His car was found abandoned on Route 2. They never found him. December 1993, a woman from Boston came up to visit family in the area and disappeared on December 27th. No signs of foul play, just gone. December 2001, a college student from New Hampshire spending winter break in the town over, vanished the night of December 28th. December 2008, a truck driver making a delivery to Stagwell never made it out. There were more. At least a dozen articles spread across 40 years, all people from away, all disappearing in the last week of December. Some bodies were found eventually, hypothermia, exposure. One fell through ice on Sebastopol Lake. All ruled accidents. But the pattern was there. Every year like clockwork, always outsiders, always late December. I noticed my hands were shaking when I put the papers back into the box. I kept working. Didn't say anything to Mrs. Dunsley when I passed her in the kitchen. I didn't let on that I'd seen everything. Part of me wondered if she had left those papers there on purpose, if this was a warning, a kind of mercy. But I couldn't read her face and I was too afraid to ask. I finished the day's work just before dark and I told her I'd come back tomorrow to finish up. She smiled and thanked me, said I was doing a wonderful job. That warm, grandmotherly voice that had seemed so comforting now made my skin crawl. I just wasn't sure anymore. So I went home, made sure everything was locked up. The person who had been standing at the tree line was gone. I don't know when they'd left, and that somehow felt worse than actually seeing them there. I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. Wind in the eaves, cars passing on the road. I kept thinking about those articles, about the pattern, about December 28th getting closer. It was 4 a.m. when I made the decision. I wasn't finishing the job. I wasn't waiting for my $300. I was leaving right now. I'd sleep in my truck if I had to. I'd run out of money and just figure the rest out later. I needed to go. I packed fast, threw clothes in the duffel bag, grabbed my phone charger and what little food I had. I left everything else. None of it mattered. I just needed to leave before anyone knew I'd gone. The sun wasn't up yet when I got to my truck. The street was empty. No lights on in any of the windows. I threw my bag in the passenger seat and turned the key. Nothing. Not even a click. Completely dead. I tried again, and again, nothing. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the keys. I popped the hood and grabbed my flashlight. Maybe it was just the battery. Maybe the cold had drained it overnight. And that's when I saw it. Someone had cut the wiring harness, just sliced right through it. But that wasn't all. The alternator was missing. Not broken. Gone. And the battery cables had been disconnected and tucked back like someone wanted it to look normal at first glance. This wasn't just vandalism. Someone had deliberately disabled my truck, and they'd done it carefully, quietly while I was sleeping. I stood in the dark, staring at the engine, and that's when I noticed the snow. It had started sometime in the night, just flurries at first, but coming down heavier now. By the time the sun came up, there would be 3 inches on the ground, maybe more, and my truck was dead. I had no money, and nobody in this town was going to help me. I looked up at the house around me, still dark, but across the street I could see a light on in Mrs. Dunsley's upstairs window, just a faint glow behind the curtains, but I could see her standing there, just a silhouette against the dark, watching me. I thought again about those newspapers in her basement, about the job offer that came at exactly the right time, about how she'd known I'd needed work without me ever saying a word. I don't think I'm getting out of here,